"Sir, step outside. You're trespassing on community land." That's what a deputy told me at 6 a.m. Coffee still hot in my hand on the porch of my grandfather's cabin 10 minutes later, I was pointing at a bright red notice that hadn't been there at midnight and telling him his badge was real, but that seal wasn't. And by noon, I'd prove our HOA had zero authority here at all, and that their president had been faking the whole show. My name is Chase Miller. I came back to Franklin Township to settle my dad's estate, and ended up in Maple Creek, one of those neighborhoods where shrubs look copy-pasted, and Christmas lights switch on at 6:30 like they're on payroll. The cabin sits 50 feet behind my house, cedar walls, a tin awning that pops when it rains. Built in 1987 with permits. Power water. The works. I use it to tinker and sometimes to sleep when my brain won't shut off. It smells like sawdust and old coffee and the varnish my granddad swore, by nothing dramatic, nothing illegal, said quiet mine. Enter Brenda Sutton, HOA president, clipboard in one hand, tape measure in the other, telephoto lens hanging like a sheriff's star. Folks warned me she cared more about angles of parked cars than people. I laughed it off. Rules are rules, right? Until the rules started bending around whoever held the clipboard. First Friday, a letter shows up, trash cans visible. Plus hours after pickup. 7 to 2nd Friday at Garden Hose. Wrong shade of green. $50. She actually flashed a color swatch like I was ordering granite. Then car parked diagonal. $50. My driveway is curved parallel. Would block the sidewalk. Every citation had a harsh tone and a harsher deadline. 14 business days, and every code looked official until you actually checked the county database. I called the clerk's long pause. Then, "We don't number sections that way." That's when I started photographing envelopes and postmarks, scanning every page, building a folder on my laptop titled, "Nope." Like a joke. I really wanted to be a joke. The night before it blew up, I camped in the cabin with coffee and my laptop to read every line of policy. I dozed off to an audiobook about wood joinery. Woke to headlights sliding across the windows. Car doors, footsteps on gravel that meant business. I cracked the door. There's Brenda in a navy windbreaker. Chin high, pointing at a red condemned notice, taped at eye level beside her, a Deputy Cole Ramirez. The kind of calm that says he's watched 100 of these shows. She launches clear violation of Section 12.4.3, no overnight occupancy in accessory structures. I hit record on my phone. "Good morning," I said. "That paper wasn't here at midnight." The deputy stepped closer, touched the seal like it might smudge. "Ma'am, this looks county, and we're a township headers off too." Brenda didn't blink. "Sir, step outside. You're camping illegally on community land." "On whose land?" I asked. "Mine," I said, tapping the plat tag by the step. "And since your body cam is rolling, make sure it catches this. That code doesn't exist in the county system." I checked. His camera chirped. Brenda's jaw tightened. She stacked violations like poker chips. Noise unauthorized. Use improper satellite dish. Angle. Yeah, that happened. Nobody cuffed me. The deputy warned her about misusing county material and told me to follow up with the clerk they left. I didn't sleep. That morning I logged into our portal. Civic comply to check I wasn't crazy. 3 violations. In 1 month, 17 had actually landed in my mailbox. The rest lived in a digital world designed to overwhelm you. And to surrender timestamps were wrong in a way that felt intentional. An automated response on Monday, acknowledging a violation that supposedly happened Tuesday. Either the portal traveled through time, or someone was backdating to make me look like a chronic offender. I clicked an audio file linked to my latest notice. Robotic message, supposedly. But what came through my speakers was a human voice reading a script, pausing to breathe, leaning on certain words like they had weight. I knew that voice. I opened our HOA homepage, grabbed the audio from Brenda's welcome video, lined both waveforms in an old editing app. The shapes looked like fingerprints. The same breath on the same consonants. The same room hum. Our HOA president had been recording automation in her own voice, rapping personal vendettas in a robot costume. You know what I mean. Then the ripples hit my wallet. Insurance email, premium adjustment, $300 due to elevated risk indicators from HOA compliance. Feed my bank put a review on my HELOC. The mortgage servicer wanted confirmation. I met community standards. Fake citations were ricocheting through real institutions. I logged every letter and date, like I was building a case for a jury made of spreadsheets. I started talking to neighbors. Patricia Green, 3 houses down, had noise violations for wind chimes she'd had for 8 years. She called me, Patricia said, voice shaking. Said the system glitched and she was following up personally. We played the recording. Patricia went pale. That's her, she whispered. Others told me. Brenda knew when they got promotions or new cars, and somehow their citations spiked. Creepy doesn't cover it, then. She slipped an email chain meant for bored eyes. Only blasted to the whole neighborhood because someone fat fingered an address. It read like a field manual. Resistance management. Flood with paperwork, demand procedural bonds. Before appeals, stage photos. From angles that hide power lines. That last line hooked me because I'd seen those lines in old pictures of my grandfather. By this cabin Friday night, walking to my car in the rain. After Brenda's pop-up meeting. My toe hit something in the mud by the curb. A bronze disc the size of a palm. I rinsed it in the sink, letters rose through the grime. Power easement 1987. Pioneer Electric. It hummed in my chest like a clue. Finally saying its own name, I dragged out my dad's metal detector and followed the path of the poles from that faded photo. The machine chirped at sprinkler heads and bottle caps. Then a lower, steadier tone, 18 inches down. Another marker, this one stamped with coordinates. I punched them into a satellite layer and drew a line. The corridor cut across our neighborhood and straight through my parcel right under the cabin. Saturday at 8 a.m., I called Pioneer. Electric bounced through 4 departments until someone in rights of way picked up. I gave her the coordinates. She promised the official map by email. Those hours took years. When the PDF arrived, the shaded corridor opened like a streetlight. I sent it to a property attorney named Jack, who actually answered on a weekend. He said, "If that's a utility easement, HOA authority usually doesn't reach inside it. File anything to stop a default." Monday, then we billed the rest. I laid everything out on the cabin table, bronze markers, the map screenshots of backdated portal entries, the audio comparison, and the HOA email where Brenda told a vendor named Ethan to hide the easement layer before the next review and rename it, so homeowners won't fixate on boundaries. I slept in bursts that weren't real sleep. Brenda moved first, 7 a.m. Monday, she staged an emergency meeting in the community center parking lot. Cones generator, a portable speaker that coughed whenever a truck passed. A teenager live-streamed from the curb. She handed out thick packets with a county seal. Only problem. Wrong county, and the seal was upside down on page 1. She smiled like gravity takes orders. "Member accountability protocol," she said. To ensure civility and efficiency, a procedural bond of $8.04 is required before any appeal. A man in the back did mortgage math out loud, like he could shrink the number by saying it. Patricia lifted a hand. "You're charging us to speak?" she asked. I walked to the mic with my folder. 2 questions. I said, "Why is this the wrong jurisdiction? And why did Pioneer Electric just confirm we're sitting on a utility easement you can't regulate?" I held up the printed map of the marker photo. "The coordinates, this corridor covers my cabin. Your notices have no legal standing there." Brenda's answer was to reach over and kill my microphone. The first second of silence got heavy. Sneakers scuffed asphalt, the teens' chat exploded with question marks. Mr. Alvarez called from the back, without raising his voice. "You don't get to mute evidence if you've got the law. You don't need the volume." Yeah, that landed. I filed an emergency response with the court from my truck and drove to the county building by afternoon. Clerk Natalie Parker called. "We're opening a public hearing," she said. "We restored the easement layer. Our IT found an audit trail. Someone flipped it to internal at 2:14 a.m., 3 days before your first citation. The hearing room looked like democracy dressed for TV cameras, microphones. An interpreter on stage, right?" Brenda arrived with a lawyer whose briefcase believed in itself, and my heart pounded. And somehow I felt calm. Just tell the truth. Parker opened with a split screen. The easement corridor in blue on one side, Brenda's violation pictures on the other. If you stood 5 feet left, the pole would be in frame. GPS metadata showed the photographer move to avoid the infrastructure. Then Parker played an automated call next to Brenda's welcome video. Same voice, same breath, same room tone. "This was not automation," Parker said. "This was a person impersonating automation to project authority." The body cam rolled. There's Brenda at 5:57 a.m., tacking the notice on my door. The seal looked wrong on a big screen. In a way it hadn't on paper. Deputy Ramirez said, "Ma'am, this appears county, not township, and the cabin looks residential." And instead of reconsidering, she stacked new claims. The IT investigator pulled audit logs that read like stage directions. 1413, layer ROW power, 1987 set to internal. 22649, label, updated to legacy imagery. 2821, public schema published. "That's not a glitch," the investigator said. "That's a sequence." Parker traced the corridor with a finger. "Within a utility easement, HOA regulations do not apply." She read, "Violations inside are void. Enforcement ceases portal under independent audit. Restitution to affected residents. Referral to the district attorney." The room went still. Brenda stood. "I am the HOA," she said, her voice cracking on. And she reached for the mic she'd taken from me the day before, and a guard eased her hand down. The gavel landed like a small earthquake. And that's where this ends for me. Not a celebration montage, just air returning to a room, and the quiet knowledge that truth still works if you refuse to shut up and sit down. Here's what I keep turning over: people like Brenda don't start with a gavel. They start with a tone and a clipboard. Small fines that seem easier to pay than fight a portal that looks official enough to make you doubt yourself. And if you're busy or alone, it works. What broke it? This time was a bronze marker in the mud. A neighbor who said, "You don't get to mute evidence," and a clerk who believed sunlight is cheaper than cover-ups. I walked back to the cabin that night, and the map lay open with a blue line that had been there longer than all our fences. The marker sat next to my granddad's cigar box full of screws, like they belonged to the same family, both Small proofs that what you build can outlast what tries to undo it. So tell me, do HOAs protect neighborhoods or train people to tolerate petty power because it comes with letterhead? Should there be outside oversight? Or is that just another layer waiting for the next Brenda? If you've lived a version of this drop of your state, tell me where the line is in your town and whether the right people are guarding it. If this hit home like the video, so more folks see it, share it with the neighbor who needs a win and subscribe for more stories where paper meets power and we see which one bends.